Okay.
Hello, everybody. This is Samara Grace Daniels welcoming you to the March Mother Mary monthly message. Say that 3 times fast. And I just want to welcome everyone into this amazing time that we're in of, I want to say, cosmic and galactic shifts that's going on. And whatever's going on in your world right now, you may be wondering, Tammy was just saying, how do I slow things down long enough to become the creator again in my life, rather than sort of the reactor fending off this and that as it seemingly keeps showing up. And so in just a minute, I'll bring in Mother Mary and see what she has to say about how do we create a new garden. And with anything that has been difficult, challenging, uncomfortable, etc., how can we kind of turn that into compost to put into this new garden? Because whatever's happened in our lives, most of us can make a fairly good pile of compost. But then the next part is, what do we want to create instead of whatever's happened? What do we want to look ahead and have in the world that's now poised for new things? I think there's a lot of relief that people are feeling about some changes coming in and the vaccines coming in. Others are completely, that's not their world, and that's okay. But for each of you that are here today, Mother Mary's messages for the last 22 years that I've been sharing them are always about how to navigate in the most loving way in your life. And so without further ado, let me just close my eyes for a second and bring Mother Mary in and offer to you her loving wisdom in how to live and create the new garden for each of us. Well, hello, everyone. This is Mother Mary, and I want to say something I hope that you all can really hear. It doesn't always have to be the way it's in. Let me say that one more time. It doesn't always have to be the way that it's been. And oftentimes in life, for many years, people say, well, that's the way it is. It's always been that way. Medical people say things because it's that way. Doctors make pronouncements because that's how it is. No, that really isn't the way that creation happens. Creation is a lot like a garden. It really is. Because the gardener, each of you are your own gardener, is in charge of what is my little plot that I can clear, my life, my home, my family, and what do I want to establish in my life, my home, my family, and my work. And I think the most important thing to begin with is, how do I live joyfully, regardless of what's out there? So how do I create an arena, an aura, a garden plot, if you will, full of joy? And I think it begins by realizing throughout this last year, which has been such an unusual year in so many ways, what you used to rely on in many, many cases isn't, that structure's not there. And so for many people, it was a question of, well, what do I do now? And so really it is taking back your own authority, taking back your own power of creation. What was, and now what is to be. And so, I know Samara was having a lovely conversation a little earlier with her dear friend Frances, who's visiting. So what I want to say is, it's time to dare to dream again. It really is time to dare to dream about the life that you would like to lead, the way that you would like the world to operate, and what are the components of that? And one of the most important components is your own well-being, W-E-L-L-B-E-I-N-G, your well-being. And so authority means you begin to realize if I watch too much of that television, which has all these terrible pronouncements on it, I get a headache, I feel depressed, and I want to just eat or drink everything in sight. Well, what I would say is stop planting that seed in your garden. Don't do that. Go and watch a wonderful movie, or take a walk, or listen to some music, or dance, or hold your dog or cat, or pet your parakeet, whatever you happen to have. Because when you begin to see how there's a cascading effect in the choices that you make, you sort of realize, well, wait a minute, who turned the television on? I can turn it off, or I can watch something else. But most importantly, my well-being is in my hands. I'm in charge of that. I'm the one that can either create something more beautiful or continue to poison myself with something that makes me feel helpless, powerless, sick. So that's the first thing. The first and most important taproot in your garden is your well-being. Your well-being. So what do I like to eat? What do I need to drink? How much sunshine? Just like a garden, if you think of yourself as the plant that's most important in this garden, what do you need for your well-being? And here I want to say so clearly for each of you, it varies. What Samara loves to do, walk in the lagoon and see otters and eagles, thrills her. It might bore the heck out of you. That's all right. Do what is for you, what feels uplifting, nurturing, lovely, delicious, etc. From that large, beautiful tree in your garden, that your well-being, now you look out and you say, okay, I want to have my family that I'm perhaps living with also be happy, or my friends, or the people in my workplace or my life. So what could I possibly do to affect their well-being? And the short and simple answer is be you. Because when you've maintained and taken care of your own well-being, and you run into your friend or your family member or whatever, you're not coming from a place of deprivation, anger, and lack. Really listen to that. You're not coming from a place of deprivation, anger, and lack. And so you're just there, you're being. And so then whatever needs to happen in that moment will be a beautiful exchange. A beautiful exchange. In your garden, you might also want to begin to recognize what makes this world work. Well, of course, we started with well-being and kindness, but really think about the water, the air, the dirt, the sunshine, the rain. All of these components nurture what grows. And so water is really emotion, right? So what emotion are you offering to yourself and to others? And if I could just make a few recommendations, if you're in your own state of well-being, what you're offering is an openness, a curiosity, a kindness, and a willingness to listen or love them, whatever's going on with them. So in your garden, as you begin to let it grow, you begin to see, if I'm taking care of myself, if I'm being kind to myself, if I'm noticing what lifts me and what what is having the opposite effect, I'm going to navigate and make my choices accordingly. I'm going to really nurture myself in the ways that feel lovely. Because I spoke about this a few months ago, the basic cause of not only the virus, But all of the other issues in your world is just one word: neglect. Neglect. And I'll go into that at some other point in time, because for today, what I want to do is encourage you not to neglect yourself, not to neglect your own happiness, not to neglect your own well-being with what you eat or drink or do or don't do, but to really realize I am in charge of myself, not anyone else. And so if I can build a body of light that I am and a garden that nurtures me, now I'm a force of good in the world without necessarily even leaving your house. Because it isn't anymore about production. Creation doesn't necessarily lead to production in the old sense. What it leads to, creation, I want to scare a few of you, is manifestation. When you become your own source of well-being and fueling your own well-being, and now you want to manifest something that is your soul's joy to do. And let me say that really loudly: your soul's joy to do. It's not necessarily what was advertised on a magazine or on Facebook, but your soul's joy to do. Everything in you, electrically, magnetically, light-wise, is aligned with that. And so there's no resistance to that. And so in this time to come, the distance between thought, well-being, creation, and manifestation is really like the blink of an eye. And so you become not only a well of well-being, you become a fountain of creation. And so you dare to dream of a world where everyone has enough to eat. You dare to dream of a world where everyone has a roof over their heads. You dare to dream of a world where instead of a child being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, and make sure it makes lots of money? Instead, a child is asked, what brings you joy? What lights you up? What do you care about? And so the very nature of these next gardens is really all about your own ability to envision the most powerful and beautiful world possible, and then to let it be done with your own desire, but also with your own effort in terms of allowing your energy to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, and to be sent out in the ways that you are guided. And so these new gardens are really imagination made real, and that's manifestation. And it has to be in accordance with divine will, divine love, and divine law. Divine will, divine law, and also divine timing. So now what I'm offering to you is that you see yourself as that tree of life, as that beautiful creation that each of you are, the part of God that you are. And you just create more and more well-being in yourself. And now you just imagine a world where every child is greeted with a song. Thank you for coming. We're so glad you're here. We know you have so much to give. And then it doesn't stop when they go to school and get told by bullies not to be this or not to be that. A world where bullying doesn't even exist because the whole ethos has shifted from domination to encouragement. Imagine what your lives would be like if, when you were 6 or 7 or 9 or 12, someone had taken it upon themselves to take you under their wing and say, whatever you really dream of, I'm here to help you create. Some of you had people like that in your life. Many of you didn't. And so you have to be your own dreamer and your own fairy godmother or godfather to say, yes, I can. There's nothing to stop you. No one can stop your thoughts but you. And so as you allow those thoughts to come from the fullness of your well-being, they're always thoughts of love for yourself, for your planet, and for all of the life on this planet, because you're made of love. Some of you find that difficult to feel sometimes, I know, but that's the truth. You're made of love. There's nothing but love. And so those old crinkly thoughts, well, I tried that and it didn't work, or nobody thinks I could do it, or I'm too old or too young or too fat or too this or too that. That's your compost. I want you to imagine, or maybe even some of you who are artistic, draw out your garden. And when you have those thoughts, put another little pile on your compost pile and say, no, it doesn't have to be the way it's always been. That's a truth I hope you hear tonight. It doesn't have to be the way it's always been. And what we need are new gardeners, new visions, new creations, and bigger compost piles, because that means you're not carrying it inside you. And when you do that, there's a fire of your spirit that burns so much brighter when you give it fuel, that you have the energy. Many of you got tired over the last couple of years, and you feel like, I don't have the energy, Mother Mary, to create a new garden. I'm tired. But I can tell you that sitting around and saying that will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will keep being tired. But if you can say, you know what, it doesn't have to be the way it's been. I'm here to create, to change, to fill myself with well-being, and to offer my love in whatever ways I am guided to do. And the most beautiful thing in the next couple of years will be watching the imaginations take fire and then become something profoundly nurturing and real in your world. Profoundly nurturing and real in your world. The other aspect of this I just want to weave in is that many of you have felt frustrated, disappointed, and betrayed by other people in your lives. We know that's just part of existence sometimes. But what I want you to do is not put them on the compost pile, but put the disappointment, the frustration, and the betrayal on the compost pile. And promise yourself, I will only allow people to treat me the way I choose to treat others. You've all heard the golden rule, but it starts really with your own decision to say, no disrespect comes my way. Move along, move out of my garden. And that respect becomes a strength of force for you, knowing that they're living their story. They're doing the best they can in that moment. Everyone is. But it doesn't mean you have to let them contaminate your garden. And that might sound harsh, but it's not, because what's missing right now is your ability to respect yourselves so highly that you're putting out an energy that is a new paradigm for the world. Mutual respect requires you to say no when someone is disrespectful to you. And so now what you begin to have is sort of a new garden club, new club of new gardeners who are all working together, each on their own well-being. And then because they have that, they can exchange gardening tips with each other. And out of that becomes the kind of resilience, the kind of strength that leads to true cooperation. You know, when you think back to, you know, like the Amish, we'll just take them for a moment because most people are familiar with them. And so needs a barn built. Well, he by himself, he could never do it. But the word goes out that this one needs a new barn. And everyone comes. And they bring their hammers and saws and whatever they bring. And some people bring lunch, and the children come and fetch water for the people that are working. Where did that go? Where did that go? It got lost in a society that valued competition and striving to be better than someone else. And there's nothing wrong with striving to be the best you possible. But without that synergy, without that community, without that ability to support each other, it's a very lonely, lonely garden. And so I just encourage you to realize, by beginning with yourself, I'm not suggesting that you stay by yourself or isolate yourself, but you strengthen your own power of being. You strengthen your own light, if you will, so that you have light to share as you choose and as it feels right. And so my request for any of you that feel so moved is draw out your garden for this coming year. It's March, it's springtime, time to plant seeds. And wherever in the garden that feels right to you, put yourself, your tree, your flowering bush, whatever you feel. Let it be beautiful, let it be strong. And then put the other things that you want in your garden. Love, kindness, animals, friendship, travel, whatever it would be. But above all, realize it doesn't have to be the way it's always been. And so when some doctor or some authority pronounces whatever they pronounce, they're talking about the past. Really hear that. They're talking about the past. Based on all of the past, this is what I would say to you. And what I would say to you is it doesn't have to be the way it's always been. Your choices to be the creator and the gardener in your life means you will create perhaps a very different outcome from what they would suggest. So what would we like to see in the world coming up? Beautiful gardens. The garden of your heart, the garden of your body, the garden of your light. You're here to be you and to be that light. So make your compost pile. Whenever an old thought comes in, if you want to write it on a piece of paper, whatever, put it on the compost pile. It doesn't have to be the way it's always been. And what will change is you. You will change it. There was a renaissance of art many years ago. Perhaps it's time for a renaissance of heart. That's my word for you tonight. Let it be a renaissance of heart. I love you all very much. And I pray for your continuing light and well-being. But as I've said before, and I will just say it one more time, I hear all your prayers. And what I can send is energy and light. And then it's for you to plant the seeds that you want to see grow. So I love you all. Much love. Namaste.